Hello, hello. Good morning, everybody. Good night. Good evening, wherever you are. Back at it again on the Blue Bonnet Commission. I have my coffee. And sometimes that's all I need in life is my coffee. And I'm happy. Alright. I've been trying to control my brushes over here. I have a tremendous amount of brushes flying around on my desk right now because I've just been trying to keep out the ones I've been using, and so they've piled up tremendously. Let's see. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Say hi in chat, let me know it's working. Got some new music now, and for those of you that weren't on the stream last night, we're permanently on YouTube now. Permanently, all my videos, all my streams, everything. And my posts are going to be on Twitter and Instagram. That's it. No more Facebook, no more Twitch. It just was too much, and it makes everything simpler, all in one place. And also allows me to use this new music library, which is great. That is copyright infringement free and is way better than the one I was using. However, going to start painting here. Let's see. Just checking a couple things on the stream. And yeah, dive in. Okay, adjust this here a little bit. So I think my mission start for today. Last time I worked on all this grass here, and today I'm going to start by finishing up the details on, or not so much the detail, but the colors on this house, because it never got there with it. Got the base colors. And I think the brush I was using was a flat brush. I'm gonna go smaller. Get a flat brush there. Now, my close-up shot's gonna be a little bit distorted here because of the angle it's on, but that's okay. I've been working with this new camera now that I can adjust, and it's kind of nice. If I can get it to stay in the spot I want, that'll be good. So I have like my zoomed out shot here, and you know, I realized it was satisfying to see the brushwork up close, as well as some other people in the comments thought so. Oh, my brush is a bit locked up here. Gonna have to use the old wire brush, I think, to save it. Still locked up. Guess I didn't clean it enough. Let's see if I can get the wire brush here. Just go at it for a second. Maybe it'll break it up. It's crazy, it doesn't even look like there's that much paint on it in it. It's completely locked, like brick solid. Took a bit of a hiatus from streaming. Glad I did. Took time to get some perspective on which platforms I wanted to use, but gonna pick it up again here. Get the content moving, if you know what I mean. Brush is almost back. Couple more brushes here. I've totally submitted this desk that I've gotten to paint and stains and scratches. It's just the art desk now. Nothing to fight there. Actually, I kind of like that it might be a little bit more firm now. Make sure none of the other cameras are picking up audio. There we go. How's the music volume out there? Is it too loud, too soft over my voice? Okay, so what did I want to do here? So I want to tighten up the edges here in the house, add some highlights, and finish the windows. The boards in the windows of the house, I didn't quite get to the point that I wanted, and there's some things missing. So I'm gonna get my colors out my palette over here that you can't see, so I'll explain. I used to have a palette camera, but I did away with it for the setup. With acrylics, I've been learning to decide what color I want before I put paint down, so that I don't waste it, because it does dry fast. So I'm gonna put down a little bit of blue and black, because I need to darken these window areas here, or at least just make the color more consistent. That was one of the details I just kind of blocked in, but I never went back to detail. And you can see there's a bit of a white edge around the window here, like just little things I gotta tighten up. Like also, I didn't get the bricks up here on these two chimneys, like this one. So there's that. What else am I doing here? Gray. It's been several days since I've mixed the color for this house, but I think I know how I got there. Might have to periodically get up to refill my coffee, but that's okay. So, dip my brush in the water here, and going to just mix blue and black together. Just a little bit. I don't need much paint for this house, because it's far away, and the details are small, and it doesn't take up a lot of area. I'm going to add some gray. Gray has white in it, so it'll brighten it up a little bit. Actually, a lot of it. It was too much. Add some more black. I realize white is probably 3 times more powerful than black is when it comes to how much it changes the color when you mix the paint in. It's crazy. Like, especially in this situation with dark blue. So I normally have another paper here next to my palette when I'm painting, and I use that paper to kind of test out my brush strokes and my colors. It also it's kind of like on a digital drawing program, how it saves your color pick history. So I kind of do like a manual color pick history over to the side, and that helps me tremendously keep my colors in the same universe. It's about the color I want. I'm going to do a little test on the doorway here. Another thing I do is I'm probably putting my face in this camera over and over again and try to stop that from happening. But what I do is I'll be ready to, this brush kind of got demolished suddenly. Yeah, I guess this brush is kind of ruined, unfortunately. I'll still make it work. See how this color is. Get you a little more zoomed in here. It's pretty dark. I think I want to lighten it ever so slightly. A little bit of white. It's deceiving, mixing the color on the palette, bringing it over to the painting, how much it changes. There we go, that's a little bit better. Trying to be conscious of the cameras here while I paint, so you guys have a better experience. Now it's not quite the right blue. I also have to remind myself that colors, they tend, the darker colors, they dry a little bit lighter, so. That one I thought was too black will end up being a little bit lighter. Here we go, this might be it. And if it's not it, I'll just roll with it at this point. Yeah, that's close enough for me. And trying to be conscious of the little brick contours here on the side. Kind of make it a rough edge. That wasn't quite what I wanted to do there. Actually, I'd have to switch out this brush and throw it away, unfortunately. The bristles looked fine when I brushed it out at first, but then they kind of frayed out as I started painting and they got wet. Oh well. Which reminds me, I got this new stuff that you use to clean your brush, and I gotta try using that more. It's this right here. And apparently you just get some on the brush here. It's like a soap of some sort. Last resort, try to save the brush. Hey, what's up, man? Good to see you. Appreciate you tuning in, brother. Glad you know that it's happening on YouTube. Anyway, I don't know if the soap is going to fix the bristles. It'll at least get the paint off the bristles that are goners. Alright. Yep. The brush is a goner. Sorry. But you know what? I'm not going to throw it away because I'm gonna put it in my graveyard. I have like a brush graveyard over here in this cup, and it's for the brushes that the bristles go astray, because I've found that before I've had to use a really destroyed brush to get a particular texture, and it ended up working. Kind of like how the blue is actually a little bit darker anyway. It probably wasn't dark enough to begin with. I'm going to go to another flat brush I have. It's a little bit bigger, but it was the one I drew the house with anyway. Color check that. Did lose a little bit of its white. I didn't mix all the paint into it, that's why. Alright. They say it's hard to work with acrylic because it's really rich color, and they're right. It is really rich color, but I kind of I think once I got used to that, I ended up really enjoying it because when you need the color to be really rich, it's nice. I think what's truly hard to beat about oil is how the light kind of gets inside of the oil paint and bounces around. It's hard to beat that. Because acrylic does not do that. I'm sure there's a way you could probably make acrylic do that with an extra product, but I haven't looked into it. So I'm redoing the blacks here on these windows. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to let my hand block it sometimes for the sake of technique. I mean, I guess I could come in with my right hand and paint it. I just couldn't have the camera on the other side, fortunately. Well, I'm keeping in mind to, oops. I don't know how that happened. Keeping the little brick textures in mind. And I do have my wood color that I have to make next, because these little sort of spindles in the windows. Now I'm going to try to not make it absolutely this color to kind of indicate that you can just see the slight hint of something inside the house, in the room, in the dark. Going to change this song here. So now that I'm only on YouTube, they allow me to use the creator audio library, which is great because I don't have to worry about copyright infringement, and I don't have to make my own music now, which was really exhausting. I mean, it was fun to make my own music to my own streams. The only thing is, I've only got like 60 things that I've recorded, and it just ends up looping after an hour and a half and starts making me crazy. So at least I got like 10,000 or so tracks through YouTube. Just continuing here with, and you know, I mean, these songs that they give me to use are just as generic as any, but I would say they're even better than the ones I made. Some of the ones I made, so because you're talking, some of the ones I made were a half day spent in Ableton Live, just messing around with sounds. Again, kind of using this opportunity to make little brick silhouettes. The silhouette, or the profile of the brick, maybe I should say. Give it a little shape. Now this thing does not go all the way to the ground, actually, remember that. There is a bit of brick below it. And I think the wood color will just do all that I can with the gray first here. Alright, pan my zoom camera up a little here. It's bendy, so I have to like bend it a little bit farther than where it needs to be. It's hard to get it right, but it allows me to point it anywhere. I find this to be probably the most relaxing stage in the painting, honestly. I think the most stressful part of the painting is always laying it out getting the objects in perspective. But then once that's all right, it's just basically filling in. Because once the skeleton of like this house, say, is in place, it makes it so all the other lines within that skeleton of the house can conform in perspective. So, I guess what I mean more accurately is when I was first starting to dive into perspective, I often would spend the time to keep going back to my vanishing point and tracing it all the way back and tracing it. And okay, so here's the line of the roof, and then like going back and trace it back to the trace it. Like, oh, I gotta draw this little window over here. All right, run it back to the vanishing point. When I really could just use a line nearby that I already checked and made sure it was right to the vanishing point, and it's closer. And I realize all you gotta do is just make sure they converge. If the lines are converging, then you're good. There's no need to check all the way back to the vanishing point 300 feet away if you already did for a line right next to it. So that's the nice thing about perspective, is everything is relative to itself and to the things around it for the most part. There are some things that get twisted around and gotta use some other tricks to figure it out, but yeah. Just panning it over here to these windows. Now, I would say on this part of the house, the bricks are the least complete. I'm gonna have to go in and I think add a bit of mortar in between the bricks. Now, this is gonna be painted over again, I'm guessing, with the wood frame that are in these. But I kind of just blocked these in anyway. I never really went to really shape them. So I'm basically kind of starting over anyway with these windows, and that's okay with me. Get them to look right. Maybe I can figure out a better angle for the zoom camera where it's not so on the side, but I realize when I do that I have difficulty sort of getting in front of the camera without blocking it, and then also not having to sit in an extremely awkward position when it comes to sitting in a computer chair and you have to kind of like lean off to the side of the camera. That was my first setup, and I don't know if I could ever go back now that I'm able to sit right head on with it. Moving over here. I'm trying to stop it from shaking so much. It's on a bendy arm, so working with the bare minimum Amazon products here when it comes to a live stream painting studio. It's like, go on YouTube. How to stream. What do I need? Good lighting. Okay. Amazon. Where do I buy good lighting? Amazon.com. And then you get the lights, and they're like the cheapest lights you've ever used in your entire life. Like above me here, I have this Khmer light or whatever, umbrella light, whatever you want to call them. I call them umbrella lights, but you know, got it from Amazon. Super cheap, like $46 for like 3 stands and 3 sockets for the light bulbs and 3 light bulbs. It's like, well, okay. So that comes in the mail. And one of the light bulbs and one of the sockets were completely broken. So right off the bat, I just was out one of the lights. Within a couple months, the second light bulb burnt out, and the second socket stopped working. And now I'm left with 1 light bulb, 1 socket. So basically, I have to like transfer the working one to the other stands. But what are you gonna do? hopefully that socket just keeps working and I can just buy more light bulbs. Or maybe this is the golden light bulb, it'll just last forever. So this window, I have my house reference over here on the side because this, if you didn't know, is actually a commission painting and they want the house to look like the house. So this one's actually showing something inside the window. It almost looks like there's some sort of bookshelf or desk with like a thing sitting on it, books, maybe a pencil holder, cup. I'm gonna try to capture that. It's really, like, maybe I could even just, by painting over this lighter blue here, indicate that. So it's kind of like sitting right there. If I just make a square in the window. Yeah, it's sort of like that. Hey, what's going on, Jacob? Thanks for hopping in, brother. Appreciate you. I know it's like midday during the work week that I'm streaming. Probably everyone's at work right now, but just trying to keep it going. Trying to keep it going. Didn't stream for a while. I gotta get back to it, or I'll never forgive myself. Panning over here. These windows, maybe I'll zoom out a little bit. Okay, so it's quite a bit past where I have to bend it to get it to stay. I think by the time this stream's over, the bendy arm is going to be broken. Gonna get a couple more of them. You know, I gotta open a source window here so that I can see what you're all seeing on a larger scale. Move my reference photo to my other monitor here and open this here. Good, happy with that. How is your morning, Jacob? You chilling? You working? Animating? You got your coffee, bro? Gotta have your coffee. Or no, you said you don't drink coffee, right? I probably should quit coffee someday. It's probably just as addicting as anything else. And I just don't realize it. I'm just addicted already. Gotta keep in mind this brick texture silhouette. Just gonna jab the edge of the brush. Maybe I can even zoom it in farther to show you what I'm talking about. Oh, that's my max zoom right there. There we go. So, I'm just taking the corner of the brush and just kind of sculpting the edge of that brick there. Kind of like that. Just a little bit. I'm trying not to make it the same on every one. Maybe the corner kind of goes up into a little crack right there. Sorry for the constant camera adjustment. I'm really zoomed in here because I just want to show you how I'm getting the texture. Oh man, this is really hard to bend to the right spot. There we go. That's fine. It's hard to get it to stop shaking too. So same thing, just taking my time going around the edges here. Getting that little brick texture. Again, I'm not filling this in totally. I'm allowing some different shades in there. I think like the brain has a way of making things out of things that aren't there. And I try to really use that to my advantage. And so like when I'm doing little details like this, I'm not really that concerned about like as long as there's a little bit of shape variation in such a way that allows your brain to kind of take it the rest of the way, it's almost like I don't really even have to think about certain details. They just kind of have to be these little shapes there, and then that's it. It's like, as long as there's these little shapes in the context of brick, then it looks like little brick cracks. I think early on, studying my references, I get so attached to the little things and making sure that they were perfect. And these windows are looking a bit dark, but they are going to dry a little bit lighter, which I'm trying to remind myself. And on top of that, there's going to be a lot of wood spindles going in and stuff that will lighten up the overall look of the window. Especially because on these, it'll really show, because the wood takes up about more than half of the window, the side of it here. I know my hand's blocking occasionally, but it's just gonna have to be that way with the way that I have to turn the brush. I probably could have already indicated that wood there, because it will be a lot of blue in the wood color due to it being in skylight, not being hit by the sun, but in shadow. So basically anything that you can still see has light on it. There's no such thing as an absolute black shadow unless there's absolutely no light. So pretty much every single shadow, or anything that is in shadow, or maybe the best way to say it is anything that's in a lack of light, has light on it still. It's just a lack of light. And then what I have to ask myself after that is like, well, where's that light coming from? And in most cases outside, if the sun isn't hitting it, it's the skylight. So this blue skylight up here is bouncing down to the ground, bouncing off the grass and then into the windows, and making this darkness in here slightly blue. And you can test it for yourself out in nature. If you walk around and look at it, you can see that the leaves on trees that aren't being hit by the sun have a slightly more, whatever the sky color is, we're talking, if it's blue in this case, the leaves will turn more blue-green. And for some reason, until I realized that in my own head and knew what color to call it, I almost couldn't even see it yet. It was like I started seeing the blues more the more I looked for them. It's kind of strange how color works like that. But yeah. And it also feels wrong at first to make a shadow blue. I think it definitely felt wrong for me. But it's one of those, once you step back and see it all in context kind of things, it looks so good. And then you can play with that concept in any other color scheme. So if all your colors are warm, because there's warm shadows too, especially in indoor scenes with a lit fire, candlelight. Because the thing with indoor scenes is you're not constantly having the blue light source coming in. So that's the thing with outside, is almost always during the day the sky is affecting the lighting of everything and the color of everything. 100% of the time, I would say. And inside, that's not the case. Inside, there's no ambient light. It's only the light that's coming from lamps and whatever's in the house. Except in a daytime scene inside where there's a lot of light coming through the window and mixing in with the light on the inside, those scenes are actually really hard too. But if you're just talking you're next to a cozy fireplace and you're sitting inside in the living room and you're drawing that, the shadows become warm because the light of the fire is now what's the ambient light, if that makes sense. So the light of the fire becomes the light, and it becomes the ambient light because of what it's bouncing off of. And I have so much experimenting to do with all of that. It's definitely something that I feel like I understand more still than I can apply, and I need I have many grand journeys of paintings to do with different color schemes, and I definitely want to experiment with a purely warm or a purely cold color scheme. Generally, I've used all the warmths, or warm to cool, in like the whole spectrum in my paintings, which means just like there's a cool spot and a warm spot in my recent works. You can find it, but it's be fun to try to do purely warm, purely cold, like a winter scene with like a moonlit night, so that everything's blue, even the light source is blue, so it's not even snow coming down or the sun coming down on snow, yellow sun. It's like just all cold, icy colors. But because I personally love winter snow scenes that are super quiet and peaceful, and I haven't painted any yet, so I gotta paint some of those. I feel like my brain's always 20 paintings ahead of myself. Now that I've blacked in those windows, my little pool of paint here is dried, ready to mix the next color for the wood. I want to refill my coffee though, so stay right here. I'll literally be right back. 2 seconds. Sorry about that. I'm back. Gotta keep the coffee filled. Gotta keep the coffee filled. Alright. Actually still have a little bit of blue paint left here, and I realized I did not fill in this fella here. And this one's closer to us, so it needs to be darker, more saturated. So I don't mind if this one's extra dark. This little shed's really broken down, raggedy, so I'm gonna bring on a lot of cracks there in that brick. It really helped make the contrast between that little other side of the brick there too. Just want to make this shed look really old. Because up here, I mean, it's like all these little spaces in here need to be darker. I probably should have a smaller brush right now for what I'm doing, but screw it. I'll take the risk. And gonna layer on top of this. That's how I taught myself to do acrylics anyway, layering. And boy is it great to layer acrylics, because they dry so fast. And if you have yourself a hairdryer, it's even faster. Normally you'd have to go walk away for 20-30 minutes, come back. Nope, just whip out the hairdryer and boom, perfect. I realized I didn't adjust the sharpness of my camera over here. That'll help see better. Oh yeah, wow, night and day. The detail just like emerged. I'm talking about the camera above me right here. Was a little bit dull. For some reason the webcam I have to like jack the sharpness up on it in order for it to look good at all. Get these little spaces up here carefully. I like that little gap there that happened. Make it look like there's a little kind of splintered board in there. Just kind of let these shapes, like I'm not really thinking out like, you know, there's this board here perfectly and then there's this other board, and like kind of at this far away, if there's enough boardiness going on, like enough shapes that look like boards, and it's in the context of a house, the brain will just tell you that they're boards. I mean, and the closer you get, the more I think intentional and confident things have to be when it comes to your lines and your shapes. And the farther they go out into the distance, the more ambiguous they can be. Through that too, the more you stay true to that, the more atmospheric perspective there's going to be as well. Or maybe that's not atmospheric perspective. Maybe that's distant, or how close you are perspective. Maybe just normal perspective. Because atmospheric perspective is more comes from the color choice that you're picking. But still, the lack of detail really still shoves things way in the background. Rule number one with that, for sure. Like as this grass comes forward, I have to take way more time to fill out every individual leaf. Like this little section here of the painting is going to take longer than the rest of the painting, probably. That's usually how it goes. One more little space here. And get some ambient occlusion going on. And ambient occlusion is a fancy term for the place in which no light reaches the absolute blacks of your painting. And I actually have no absolute black in this painting yet. Not even gotten close to it. The absolute black, if I took that and put it on this, it would be so obvious. Like, so everything is still relatively light. I'm saving that for the very, very foreground. Things in this truck, like the grill in here, I'm going to really bring in some really, really dark black underneath the truck here where the tire is missing. And then the little tiny spaces in between the plants and the leaves are going to be much darker than anything up here. And in theory it should provide some contrast and push the house out farther. And I wanted to come over here and just get in the corner with the ambient occlusion. Okay, let me move my camera. This is my bedroom and my studio, so you can see. Basically touching up the shadow line underneath that soffit of the house there. Want it to be just a little bit more crisp. Right up on the edge of the tin roof, so that way it will pop a little bit more. Hopefully. We hope that it'll pop a little bit more. There we go. I'm going to actually use both hands for stability. And then real quickly before that dries, I'm going to come in and I'm just going to kind of run my finger along it real gently. And it just takes the slightest bit of paint off and makes it just a little softer. So it looks like that I didn't just like draw a line on the painting. And I've noticed that the finger is one of the best tools. Of course, I wouldn't do it with toxic paint. All my acrylic paint is non-toxic. I use cadmium-free yellow and whatnot and all that stuff. So definitely not recommended to rub paint into your skin all the time. Anyway, I'm actually thinking about getting a tool for that, but the finger is just so accurate when it comes to that finger smudge technique. Anyway, up here, right in this corner, there's going to be some. And even in these bricks, could use a bit more. Pan my camera a little over here so I don't get out of the shot. There we go. That's good enough for me. And I don't want too much detail over here, to be honest. Like, I'm not gonna go in and I kind of just want to imply some things, because this stone house is a little bit back. I mean, it's not the distant mountains distance, but it's far enough back where I think if you were standing in the yard, you wouldn't see every tiny little brick detail necessarily. But I do think that this would be a bit darker, just in some little spots. It'll make it make a little more sense. Like, I know that this is a crack here. From my reference, it's like a... Just bring it out a little bit, because you can really see in the reference that there's a crack here. There's a much bigger space in between the bricks. Rubbed that a little too much. This is, you know, I mean, I basically talk to myself about all these little details as I paint. It really helps me to imagine like why I'm doing something. So I think like one of the best things I've ever heard in art. I don't know where I heard it from. I forget now. Well, probably another great artist. I forget where I heard it, but when it comes to putting any sort of stroke or painting on your painting, or any line or anything, is to do it with purpose. Like, why? Ask yourself why you just drew that line. Any line, doesn't matter. And down to the smallest dot. And you don't have to ask yourself about every dot, because I think the principle of what I'm saying is like once you get it down, that it becomes more intuitive. But like when I ask myself, why am I putting down that line, or why am I picking this color? Why did I dab the brush that way? I often catch myself being a little bit lazy and just kind of hoping that random chaos will help me in making detail. Well, when like there are points that random chaos helps, like leaves on a tree and kind of dabbing it, like the Bob Ross technique. But I think for more rendered pieces and more particular details, there has to be a lot of intention in how that is drawn, and I think it really translates, rather than kind of blobbing down a bunch of lines and sketchy textures and just kind of hoping that someone's going to understand what you meant, when I find often that that's not the case, and that I'm the only one that can see what I see in the detail. But the more I actually think about that little spot in the dirt, the more it actually looks like that little spot in the dirt. I don't know if that rant made sense, but it made sense to me when I realized it. Anyway, I'm gonna try to make a color for the wood here. And let me look at this. It's pretty much just gonna be a it's pretty much just with the color I'm already using with some white, and maybe I'll toss in a little bit of umber. So it brings out a little bit of that brown color. I'm gonna have to get some more paint out of my tubes here. Let's see, where's my blue? There's my blue. So I actually, hey Jay, what's going on, man? So glad you made it, dude. What's going on, brother? So I started this painting with ultramarine blue, and I ran out and I had to switch to phthalo blue, which actually taught me a bunch, because I was like, well, even though I have a more green blue to work with now, because there's a way through color mixing that I can still get the same greens and everything, and the truth is you can, by canceling out colors, canceling out the green in the blue with a little bit of red, you can bring it more towards sap green, because I find that like just mixing yellow and ultramarine blue, yellow and phthalo blue, it immediately gives you a more aqua green. So to bring it towards like nature green, like non-ocean greens, it requires a little bit of red. So I need black. Where did I put my black? Oh, there it is. Sweet. Just chilling with the fam. Nice, man. Sounds like a good day over on the lake. I assume you all are in the new entertainment room, right? The video games aren't down in the old place anymore. Where's my brush? It's in my water. I think the biggest journey has been remembering how to find a color that I mixed. That's been the hardest part, really. Remembering how to mix the color. There's actually a cool channel I found on TikTok that he just like uses paint to match the colors of objects. Found it pretty entertaining. So it looks fun. You know, like just pick up like any object in your house, try to match the color of it with paint. Gonna use the rest of my gray here. I've learned that this neutral gray this neutral gray that I work with seems to have more white than black in it. So I'm gonna take a big blob of white and I'm mixing it with what I have now mixed blue and black together with. And here's the part where I think could be wrong. I'm gonna add some brown, a little bit of raw umber. And they call it raw umber, I think, because it doesn't lean towards the yellow or red. And what I mean by that is, so there's, let's see, where is it? So there's another version of umber called burnt umber. And it's basically just adding red to it. The way I remember what burnt umber is I just think like you burnt it with red fire by putting red in the brown. Same thing with sienna. So that's another type of brown. It's called, you have raw sienna and burnt sienna. And same thing where raw sienna is like super middle of the road, sandy, kind of like more towards the desert brown sand color. And then burnt sienna is just adding red to that. So raw umber is really middle of the road, orange with black in it, sort of brown. And I realize there's so many uses for brown. So many good uses for brown. But it's never like, it never reacts quite how I expected at first. Like, it's not just like, oh, you add brown and you're like gonna brown something. Normally you add brown and it reds it up. And the reason why I think it reds it up is because red's more powerful than yellow, so I think the red's always gonna shine a little bit more in the way it alters the colors. I made this color too bright, so I'm gonna take some black and mix it in with half of it. It's still too blue. I'm gonna take the rest of my brown, mix it in there. And I guess what that would do, it would make it more gray because it's black in the brown, and it would also make it more purple because I have red in that brown and it's mixed with that blue, so it's gonna bring it more towards like a grayed out purple. The color test, I still think this is too dark. Let me see. Yeah, it's too dark. I'm gonna bring in my gray. Really mix up the gray. See where that brought it. When in doubt, use gray. If you can't match the color, use gray. Is this the view out the window? Nope, not my window. This is actually a commission painting for somebody, and it's actually two photos combined. So there's a picture of this house in this shed out in the field with like a farm and stuff, and then there's this truck that's not in the picture that's like rusted somewhere else, but she wanted like the truck in the yard, so I like brought the truck into the yard. There's some other things still missing from this painting that I haven't gotten to yet. Like there's a couple little cow pen over here, and there's a barrel. Some other things, odds and ends laying about. So yeah, once I finish the big stuff, get to the little stuff. I still feel like this is too dark, but maybe, oh, I think that's the right direction. Let me see. I think I found the right direction here. It's honestly just gray. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna draw in the base color here, and then go towards a lighter gray to highlight them. Really close here. It's actually a door. That's what I'm seeing. So the frame of the door runs right about here. Try to get my hand out of the way so you can see it. And I'll make the frame of the door a bit brighter than the rest of it here. And then there's these, it's so damaged. There's like a board going like diagonal like that. And I can get some more close-up action here. Thanks, bro. We don't make mistakes, just happy accidents. Am I gonna get sued for saying that? Because I wouldn't be surprised. There's a Bob Ross documentary that came out. Just watched. It's pretty dark, to be honest. the story of how a giant corporate enterprise added a dark twist to the story of Bob. Poor Bob. We will never forget you. But it's too bad that your gift shop merchandise had to go in vain. I want to steal half of this gray that I'm using and lighten it more with white. What's cool to know, though, that some people might not know about Bob Ross right now, is his son is still teaching paint classes along with his best friend. Bob's best friend is still alive, teaching paint classes as well. So his technique lives on. But, long story short, the Kowalskis are the people who own Bob Ross Incorporated, not Bob Ross, or not the Ross family anymore. The half-brother of Bob Ross's actual son sold away the rights to the Kowalskis. So now anytime you see something like this that says Bob Ross Incorporated, it's owned by a family called the Kowalskis. And yeah, it's a pretty tragic story. Kind of sucks. How his show became a monster. And they just wanted to sell paint products with Bob Ross's name on them. It wasn't about the joy of painting as Bob would want it. So I'm adding these little highlight lines here. I don't want to spoil the rest of it. I mean, it's worth to go watch. You know, I'm going to say that it's not brown enough. I'm going to bring the brown into it. The wrestling family? I'm not sure. They could own a wrestling thing. I wouldn't doubt it. But, Annette Kowalski. If you were a Bob Ross fan and you watched all their episodes, there was an older lady that came on occasionally, and he would be like, "Oh, hi, this is like my friend Annette, and she's going to show you how to paint some flowers." And I personally remember seeing her come on, and basically she was Annette Kowalski, married to another guy, and apparently Bob and her had an affair, and then some sketchy shit happened, and basically, yeah. They stole Bob's name. Well, I mean, technically they got Bob's name legally because the half-brother signed it over. But it sucks, basically. They shouldn't have it. Because I don't think it's what Bob would have wanted, personally. Kowalski is a big wrestling name. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. Like, I wouldn't doubt they own Bob Ross and they own Kowalski. Or whatever, Kowalski Wrestling, whatever it's called. Would not doubt that for a freaking second. So this window has literally like 100 spindles on it. I try to do it with my right hand so y'all can enjoy the placement. For some strange reason, when it comes to like writing on a chalkboard or like using my arm, I can use both hands to write. But when it comes to like super detailed, like signing my name or drawing with a pencil, I have to use my left. And I think maybe it comes from being in the painting industry too and having to use both hands all the time. But I mean, of course, it's a it's a tad more shaky. Like, I'm not gonna lie, but it's not enough to where I'm not gonna get the same result. If that makes sense. And plus, it helps to right hand paint a little bit. I find myself getting into certain things on the canvas to where I have to switch hands anyway. I think I have approached the right color for these. So now that I have that color, I just add white to make it a little bit brighter for the highlights. That's the nice thing, sometimes you find the color and you can make the rest of the shades just from that color. So, got another spindle here. And I'm being mindful that these spindles are staying in perspective. And I already know the base and top of my window are in perspective. And like I was saying earlier, I don't need to trace out to my vanishing point all the way out from the house. I can just use my window here as a guideline. And they should be true enough to each other. I'm curious now. I want to like see about that, the wrestling thing, and if they're the same Kowalskis. Won't change my life or anything, but it'll be interesting to know. All right, I'm gonna get my spray bottle and spray some water on my palette here because it's one of my favorite tricks to keeping acrylics wet. I think probably from the time you put the paint down on the palette, you have probably like 15 minutes tops before they get dry. But if you periodically add water with a spray bottle, fine mister, you can probably extend that to like a half an hour, 45 minutes before the paint gets too watery. Well, I'd say, don't add too much water to your acrylic. It might crack when it dries later, but I haven't seen that happen. I think they're talking to extreme levels. So, I actually can see quite a bit of detail in these windows of the house. So I'm gonna take liberty and really making them happen. You know what I mean? Plus, they're there for a reason. I'm sure the spindles wouldn't like it if I ignored them, didn't give them a place in the painting. I don't know if I'm weird for this, but when I was a kid, I used to think all objects, I used to view objects like Native Americans would. Like they have like a sort of a spirit to them. So as a kid, like I'm saying, like super young, I used to feel bad for objects. Like a vase falls off the table and shatters on the floor. Be like, oh man, that probably hurt, if I was that vase. Super kid thoughts, but I'm sure that developed up in some sort of way in my brain into thinking about objects as I paint them, because I guess that's what I was getting at. There's a slight hint of a cross board here. Toss it in there. It's so dim. And then there's another board up here that really kind of sits into the brick. And I think I'm going to have to recreate the brick color and bring it back down to this board here. I know my left hand's blocking it. It's going to have to happen. The camera awareness, I can only do so much of. Like when my head goes in front of the zoom camera, it's hard to avoid that. It's right here. It's like when I turn my chair, it bumps into it too. I have to watch out for that. Continuing here with these window boards, spindles, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to pan over to these windows and get those done. Let's see. I can't keep my left hand out of the way if I move it over enough, but the angle of the brush does not become my friend. So this really reveals how inset the window is to the frame. And I'm going to create the black line by negative space drawing here. So by highlight next to a highlight. Sometimes with a nice flat edge brush that's in good condition, you can draw lines with it by tapping it rather than drawing the line like this. As long as it's perfectly lined up, you shouldn't be able to tell too much of a difference. So that's actually a little crease there. And then the wood stops at another space right there by the side of the brick. Just gotta be sure not to touch this line to the brick. That. And then I should be able to fill it in, besides this one crack here. And I'll just, a little trick of being safe when you're drawing is to draw a little area around something that you can't touch, like that. And then just fill it in. And now you know you're not gonna like touch it on accident. It's like, and I'm not going to fill it in perfectly solid. And I think it's because it's looking, it was kind of an accident, but it looks like wood texture, allowing some of that black to show through behind it. So I'm going to kill two birds with one stone, I guess would be the right thing to say. Cut two bananas with one knife, you know? Man, you could you could twist that analogy all day. How many things can you do with one thing? Probably a lot. And I mean, I guess on these windows you can't even see the window. I'm going to break the rule on this one because from my reference photo I tilted it more in perspective, so I've had to adjust for that. But still on this window, just barely. Actually, you know what? I'm still going to have to adjust for the perspective. And that's fine. I actually did that on purpose. I've ranted about this before earlier, but I'm trying to interpret my references. I'm not trying to copy them exactly anymore. Permanently trying to interpret them. So for this example, it's like I'm like, all right, I'm going to turn the house in perspective way more than it is in my photo. So it'll force me to think about what it would look like. Again, just kind of leaving there's actually there's a board. I'm going to grab some white and actually make one more, a little bit lighter version of the gray I'm using here. I actually just used too much. But that should be fine. Sorry if I'm putting my face right in the zoom camera. It's probably not pleasant. There's a board that's broken like this. I'm going to take a little bit of the paint off of it with my finger. I think what will really give it its dimension is now adding the darker gray under it. I should have done that first, but I thought it was too dark. Where was I? Right here. There we go. And there's another board here. This one has a black space in between it. This is how I did the bricks too. I painted the mortar first in between the bricks. So like the house was just a solid color, and then I kind of blocked the bricks on top of that to create the lines. There's actually there's a board. Probably going over excessive here with this detail, but why not? Let's do it. It's another crack. Like that. And that's noticeably darker. I do have a little bit left of the darker color that I was like, ooh, it's too dark. I find it that I get good results too from mixing the colors that I mix on my palette as well into like 2 other new unique colors. So like find your color, make the lighter version of it, make the darker version of it, and then use the lighter and darker and mid version of it that you just created to then mix again into other versions, and then kind of dance in between those choices. About 4 colors per object, depending on how close they are to you, and the foreground. Wasn't quite dark enough. Let's see, just grab a little. It's probably going back into the shadow color almost. It's like a board here. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Sort of like that. Probably comes out farther. I'll roll with that for now. Gonna go, but good to see you. Dude, thanks so much for hopping in, man. Appreciate you. Hope you all enjoy your day. Enjoy your morning. Take care, man. Chat soon for sure, yeah. Absolutely. Gonna get my spray bottle and soak these colors here. Because on these small, far distant details, the paint doesn't need to be super opaque. Like it can be a little more transparent, and therefore you can push the watered downness and the life of the paint on your palette a little bit farther, I think. While that stays wet, I'm going to go to the bathroom really quick. So anyone watching, please hang out. Going to be going much longer. I just need to go to the bathroom, so be right back. Oh, sorry. Just stop the camera. taking a break, dude. Stupid. I'm back. Thank you for waiting. Coffee went right through me. Alright. Forgot to start the music up there again. And my paint should still be wet because of the spray bottle. Headphones, where are my headphones? Alright. Thanks for sticking around. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Alright. Also, I need to adjust something on the screen quick that I meant to do again and again, but I just haven't. Let's see. Nope. Squeeze that down a little. A little more. And that. Cool. Block that up. I've been meaning to put this up. I thought I did already. Because now that I switched to YouTube and my channel's not a partner yet, I can't do like the stars like I did on Facebook anymore. So just for now, I'm going to have my Venmo up. Yes, if you feel like you want to tip, you can. And it's there. Not asking, not pushing you to, just gonna leave it up. Because before, it used to be built in. Kind of like bits on Twitch, but until I get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, I can't do that. So I'm just gonna toss that there. Alright, back to the spindles. I'm not gonna give you the spiel, you know, that everyone gives. I really do this because it's fun. And I enjoy hanging out with everybody. Let's see, I'm gonna have to pan you over to these windows. There we go. Get my reference back up here. Because again, this is a commission. And the house has to look like the house, I guess. I've decided it has to look like the house. I'm sure I could have, the client would have allowed me to interpret it a bit more, but it's so characteristic of this scene. I did place that a little low, so I'm just gonna, before it dries really quick, just rub it out with my finger. That's another trick too, and also a benefit of making the paint a little bit inky, is that it's easy to just quickly wipe it off the canvas if you accidentally make a bad mark. The thicker the paint is, the more it instantly adheres and grabs. Definitely water is your friend with acrylic. These spindle lines are actually too thick, but it's fine. I'm gonna let them chill for now. What's really cool about this particular window is it has actually some leftover glass in it. Which I'm going to have to put that detail in. Kind of reminds me of those old factories you drive by on the highway, in the industrial complexes. Yeah, it looks like they're all abandoned, old windows shattered. I used to love staring at those in the back seat when I was a kid driving with my parents down the highway. Kind of just wondering, like, what happened? What's the story of that place? Kind of like to know the story of places. I don't know. Something about it. Kind of the lore. Same way, I'm the same way like that in my video games. I really like to know why things happened. Often, there's a story behind everything. Indeed. There we go. Now it's starting to look like a house. Just doesn't have these like voids for windows anymore. This broken down house has been kind of fun in the sense that like it's been difficult in the sense that it has such a look to it, but it's also been easy in the sense that it's kind of shattered in a lot of places, so lines don't have to be so perfect. Kind of the shakiness to a brushstroke adds to how it looks old to me. And I guess that just happened to work out for me in this case, luckily. So going to reap the benefits of saving time there for sure. This is a very broken window. There's a board shooting across like that, and then there's another board going across, and it's very lined up with this pretty much, so make sure we're level with that spindle. That'll keep the house in perspective for our brains to enjoy. I need to... Nope, I don't need to do what I was about to say. A lot of this is me thinking out loud, so sometimes my thoughts don't finish as I'm saying them, and so it sounds like I don't finish what I'm saying. There's no way I'm going to be able to plan out what I'm saying for this long, so I might as well just sound completely crazy and talk to myself for the entire time. It's the only way I'm gonna get through it. Hopefully it allows you to still get through it. Because I have no idea how enjoyable this is. I'm enjoying myself. Just basically filming myself enjoy myself. That's basically what you're watching. Yeah, there we go. Full analysis. Done. There we go. We have it. So here's this window, and I like the way this wood is in here because it is broken more and it goes down on an angle. The window has seen its day. As we all see our days, as everything sees its day. I'm gonna let. So here's a little interpretation that I let happen. In my reference here, it doesn't go through like a cross, but I kind of like it. I like that it goes through, and that looks like that one's snapped. Hell, I'll even add a little. There we go. I like that. Makes it more fun when I add my own details to it. Alright. I'm gonna get my spray bottle. Actually, I haven't gone back to dip on my palette much because it's a small detail, so it doesn't use a lot of paint. And I find that happening often with acrylics. When it's very small details I'm working with, I don't need a lot of paint. And also, like, a lot of paint goes a long way. And so it can take a lot of time to like get back to dipping my brush. So often it'll dry up on me. Anyway, sorry, I'm just checking something on my camera here. My camera is an app you can get called Epic Cam, and it converts your phone's camera into a webcam, and it's amazing because you can reap the benefits of an iPhone camera, which these days is amazing because it's 4K and whatever. And so far, as you just saw, I tested it. I mean, it does did a little black skip there, but I'm able to use it still, kind of. All right. And let's see what we got in this one. This one doesn't have any spindles. It just shows the frame. There we go. And it's actually, you can see the board go down there, and then more ambient occlusion, and then it kind of does that. Oops. So sometimes what I do when I make a mistake like that, I'll dip my finger in the water and I'll just do that. And it's fine. And with acrylics, they're a little less toxic. They're a lot less toxic than oils. So I don't mind getting it on my hands a little bit. As long as it's not overkill, not too much. Apparently some colors are more toxic than others, but I know it's cadmium and what is it? Cobalt blue, cadmium, and maybe there's other ones. Yeah. Just anything that sounds like that, like radioactive, just don't put it on your skin. Cadmium, like periodic elements, periodic chart of elements kind of stuff, you know? Uranium brown. Definitely don't use uranium brown. Like that's not a real color, but you know, you probably won't be healthy if you use that color. There is, what am I trying to find here? That's what I was trying to do. So this board is filled in right there. And so is this board. Cool. Oh, nice. I've been meaning to get to this part. This is going to be fun. So I got my highlight here. And I'm going to take a second to change my zoom angle here. Alright, that's right. I gotta make the bricks on that chimney. Haven't gotten around to that yet. Okay. So this is actually all wood up there too. I'm trying to do a super zoom. There we go. Now just make sure I don't move too much so it doesn't shake. So I can get even still. Nope, I made it shake more by making it more still. There we go. I'm gonna have to let it work itself out. It's not that rigid of a camera mount. It's on like a bendy arm. That's also on like mounted to a bendy piece of wood. So it'd probably be less wiggly if I mounted it better. I'll do that after this stream. So I want to highlight these boards up here, and before I do that, I got my color on my brush, and I'm making sure that my brush has like a razor sharp edge to it. I don't know if you can see that in the camera. If I turn my brush, it's like really sharp like that, at least thinner. It's gonna be thinner than the board itself so that some of the undertone, the shadow of the board is showing. That's important. Yeah. Let's see here. Just going to adjust volume on something here quick. Okay. Hope the music's not too loud. Right here, I'm just going to tap. Here, gonna try to draw this line. Right there. And you know what? It's a little bit brighter, honestly. Especially because this is exposed to skylight now. So I'm actually gonna bring in a little bit of blue and a little bit more white to this kind of brownish gray color I'm using here. And it should tell our brains it's affected by the skylight a little more, hopefully, in theory. There's a board here that I haven't been able to bring out until now. It's sort of like that. It's kind of going across the top of the house here. And fixing this highlight, it's initially why I added more white. I realized I had to because it wasn't bright enough. And I probably will have to go a bit brighter, but I'm going to save that for the last highlight. It's almost as if there's this sort of rot happening on each board, and it's only in certain spots. It's like I'm not actually doing a highlight. I'm doing this sort of really white, dried out area of the wood that's happening. It almost looks like the wood got burnt, but it's not. It's kind of just the driest, whitest, grayest wood you could imagine. It's almost like it's still too blue. I'll keep running with this highlight, but I'm only gonna do it minimally here, and then I'm actually gonna brighten it even more. There's another diagonal board here. Went a little over the edge there, and the finger saved it. Saved the day again. Another board's going across here. And there's like 3 or 4 boards kind of shooting out, and then this one continues across. And I'm trying not to be 100% perfectly solid. The tap right now is seeming to give me the detail I need. There are little gaps in this white that's happening on the boards. Like this one has the most white, and then it comes down and there's a jump to another white section there. This one has a real, that's going to be the highlight next. Gotta go a little bit brighter. This one has one here on this L, which I already got. Oh, and then on the edge here it's really bright. I can't see a board on the top of the brick. It just goes right into the brick. Goes right into the brick. That's good. These two here in the middle have some, but they're just little dots. That was even too much on that one, but I'm gonna let it stay because I don't want to smudge that. Because the delicate part about this area is that you can see the green coming through in the back, and that's important. That really shows that it's boards. Because then it makes the roof look solid otherwise. So I'm going to drag a little bit of white in my palette over here into that next light color I just made. And just bring it up another notch in brightness. I can see on my test paper over here, it still has enough blue in it, I think. If anything, it didn't go white enough. I'm gonna go even a little bit more, be risky. Almost to the point where it looks like some sort of mushroom or fungus that growing on it, kind of like on the side of trees. So here we go. I'm gonna start with this board over here. It's super bright. Yeah. And it does look a little too bright off the bat, but it will darken as it dries. I think it's perfect. And I don't say that often when I pick a color. I always feel like I slightly miss. I slightly miss the color every time. But every once in a while, I mix a color and put it on the painting, and I'm like, yep, that's it. Hopefully that gets to be more frequent eventually. So here's a little trick if I get to it in time. I put the paint on, and there's a little spot where I didn't want it to go, and I usually scrape it off with a knife if that happens, like that. Just to get it off, like that. Just enough. I always tell myself I have like 5 seconds for every paint stroke to manipulate it in some way post paint stroke. So whether that's smudging it with your finger, adding water, wiping it off with a wet paper towel, whatever. Because it happens. Especially in these small detail phases with paint, because paint's kind of finicky at the tinier levels. Paint's really satisfying and nice when it comes to large brush strokes and details and blending, but the second you get to zoom in a little bit and make it do what you want, it's difficult, because I think a lot of painting is controlled chaos. It's like learning how the paint kind of organically falls onto the paper, and then you kind of manipulate it. But when it's really like, no, I need a sharp line or like a perfect circle, it's hard. At least for me. I mean, maybe there's some technique out there that's, I'm sure there's a YouTube video for everything now. Paint a perfect circle in 5 seconds using only a brush. Sure, it's out there. But for me, when I find doing circles, I get it close, and then I gotta kind of go in with the other color and push this edge in this way, get this edge out, and kind of tweak it until it looks like what I want. I'm gonna change this tune. Again, this is a free library, copyright-free library of music that YouTube provides. And I am grateful for it, because before I had to use my own music. And not every song is going to be good. A lot of them are pretty cheesy, actually, but you know what? I got tired of signing on to my account in my Creator Studio and seeing some copyright thing that was just because the AI picked it up and it wasn't really because I was copywriting. For example, one video I had, I covered a Beatles song with my friend instrumentally without even singing the lyrics, and the AI still picked it up as the Beatles song. Ain't that crazy? Picked up the melody. And wasn't even singing the lyrics. I thought that was pretty advanced of them. It's pretty advanced of you, YouTube. And, you know, we didn't even play it exactly like the song, really. We kind of jammed it out, interpreted it, you know. So, yeah. If it's already that advanced now, I'll take the no-risk music. Thank you. I think, doing my research, it was anything before 1925 you can use, so any composition before 1925. So I've gone ahead and accidentally used the too bright color. It was only for the roof. As you can see, it already dulled down. And it actually probably isn't bright enough now, so. But stepping back in a notch of brightness, I'm grabbing the prior gray. I'm going to use that to gently highlight these windows. Because it's barely. Most of these highlights I'm going to be wiping off again. I guess what's good about where the camera is it's completely disconnected from the canvas, so if I do press it, excuse me, talking a lot, it dries you out, I realize. That was the first thing I realized with streaming, is to have some water nearby, because talking, it's hours at a time, really dries you out. I have a show I gotta play tonight too, at the filling station, local bar. Come on down if any of you Tennesseans are watching. The old band, the old house band. It's always a good chill night, good times, good jams. But I know I have to sing a few songs tonight, and I'm wondering if I'm gonna feel the effects of this stream later while I'm singing, maybe. Not gonna let it stop me though. We will stream on. We will paint and stream on. And I'm just gonna do an experiment here. I'm not even gonna worry that I'm thinking it's looking too bright. And I already know it's gonna dry darker. I mean, you know how many times do I have to go through that learning experience before I realize that, you know, just acrylics are gonna dry darker than they go on when they're a light color, vice versa. So I might as well get over it and stop being a little bitch about it, you know? Let's see. Time. Oh, that's a brick indent. That's not. I thought I made a mistake, but I didn't. Not this time. Maybe next time. Maybe on this window. This is when the next mistake will happen. It's not a matter of if. It's a matter of when. When will I make that next mistake? That's for sure. I wish there was a day where a mistake never happened again. I could just say, oh, you know, they're all gone forever. But I've conceded to the ever bombardment of never-ending mistakes in painting and in life. It's funny how a lot of life virtues kind of tie into painting and art. and music. They seem very bonded and similar in their realizations. This highlight over here will, I think, make it look more of how it should. Here we go. And I think it's looking like dry rotted wood. Can anyone confirm? Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I didn't move the camera. How dare I? I almost went. That was my first mistake. My first time this stream. Last stream, I kept forgetting over and over to move the camera when I got off the frame, but that'll get less and less. Gotta bear with me here with my new super high tech Amazon camera phone mount that's meant for FaceTime calls, but is actually unsuspectingly super advanced studio equipment. I'm gonna keep the house like that. Maybe I can lower it a little, but you know what? I'm pretty happy with the roof over there, so I'm not worried that this shot is blocking it. That kind of looked like I just pointed at all three, didn't I? So, moving on with the highlights before my paint dries here. Again, gonna take out the trusty spray bottle. This is a little hand sanitizer thing that I got from the pandemic, because normally they just don't have this shit in gas stations, but they do now. So pick them up while you can. And I use it to spray water on my palette. Because before I used to just dip my brush in the water and I would then proceed to just like let it drip onto the paint, and I found that I had less control over the amount of water, which I later found to be very important because you can overwet the paint. It's a thing. It's a thing. I believe my music had stopped here, so I think it pauses if I don't pay attention to it for a minute, so I just have to stay conscious. It's kind of Jimmy rigged. It's basically like this library of music that YouTube gives you, and they let you look through it. So I'm like on the looking through it window and letting that play. And then my stream software picks up that audio file and then sends it to your ears. Your ears. Your ears. That's one of those things that's hard to say. For me. Oh, what do you know? There was too much paint on my brush, but it was inky and watered down. Look at that. I was able to just wipe it right off. I know I'm not zoomed in to this detail much over here, but it's fine. I'm not going to adjust the whole camera. Just this. I'm not going to be at this window long. It's not going to be that long. This is a super spacey music track, huh? Well, I did pick calm, so I guess I'm asking for it. Let's see. Let's go to that one. Alright. Moving on, moving on. Oh, you know what? Way too watery, actually. So I could have crossed the line a little bit in this particular little spot with the spray bottle. So I'm going to bring more paint into it. And, yeah, go from there. I'm definitely going to have to go grab some water here very shortly. This talking has caught up with me, frankly. Just dawned on me. Like, oh yeah, if you don't drink soon, you will reap the consequences. So, yeah, this isn't boardy enough here. I'm going to bring out the boardiness. The woody boardiness of this here. Because I can, right? What would Bob Ross say? this is my world and I can do whatever I want, right? All that shit he says on the show now is so much darker to me now that I've watched that documentary. I know I've mentioned that documentary multiple times, but anyway. Checking my phone quickly here. All right, got our window things. It's great. Now that we have the window things done, I think I want to finish the brick because I already have like some good brick color going on. Okay, lots of good brick color going on right now. Just saying. I'm just saying. There's so much of it. So much good brick color that you can use right now, that I can use. Have I told you that I don't care if I make much sense when I talk here? Good. Because I don't plan on it. I just plan on filling the space up with words. And I don't care if they make sense or not, I guess. Well, I guess if I'm talking about art, I hope that they make sense, because I wouldn't be able to do anything I can do without all the other people that could have already done it. And so I feel like I can hopefully be helpful by explaining my process. But if that doesn't make sense either, that's okay too, because at least I'm giving you something to look at. And if you find it interesting, well, that's great. If you don't find it interesting, that's fine too, but whatever. Just, yeah. Kind of seeing where this live stream adventure takes me. So far, it's been fun. It's been a fun journey. I'm glad I started painting. I wish I started painting sooner, to be honest. But I'm glad that I drew first, because the background in drawing helped a lot when it comes to structure and whatnot. And yada yada. Perspective. The biggest hurdle in paint has been learning color. Still a hurdle. Color is one of those things that I will be learning for the rest of my life. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. And, actually, no, I'll go back in. And I gotta go up to these chimneys here. That's what I wanna work on. Get this brick going. There we go. That autofocus is working for me today. Wasn't the other day. Let's see. What color are these bricks? Yes. I think I need to get a dash of brown into my gray, and I shouldn't have to do much work from what I already have mixed. Hopefully. Hopefully. Maybe because there's so much gray, it will, oh, this brush is way too big. Maybe because it's already a gray color, it'll kind of pick up the context of this brick color here below. If that works and gets it close enough for all the brains out there in the world that will maybe not look at this painting, I'm happy. I'm happy with that. It's a commission painting. It's going to go in someone's house, so maybe the people that walk through their house will say, hey, you know, the gray on that chimney on the left there really soaked up the brown below. But you know what, maybe they'll never even notice. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe they'll never ever even notice it. Ever. Okay. Maybe, in fact, the only reason they'll notice it is because I'm mentioning it. I'll grab more white. Maybe they will seek out this video and research that chimney moment. I'm actually glad these bricks were darker at first. This chimney is too far away for me to care that all this brick is perfect, but I will indicate the indication of indicating that there is an indication of bricks. Exactly. I couldn't have made more sense in my life just then. Sometimes I have my brilliant moments, you know. Man. I'm just gonna jump right to this crazy highlight because I don't care. Because this chimney doesn't care either because it's so far away. It doesn't care that its bricks aren't perfect because it knows that you can't see them from where you're standing on the grass. So I agree with this chimney, and I will let it be. I will let it not be detailed. I have been training myself to move on from adding too much detail too, so it works out. Symbiotic relationship between me and this chimney right now. Alright. I also need to bring the brick down to the roof here. That doesn't look right, does it? You also can't see what I'm working on. I'm sorry. Forgot to move it again. Now you know what I'm talking about. Let's be happy with that. I'm going to be happy with that. And the perspective line got a little off, so I'll bring down the rest there on the roof a little bit. Even more so. Slightly. Slightly. There it is. There it is. Alright. Oh. One more. I didn't notice it till just now. Just that second there. Ain't that crazy? I didn't notice that and I was looking right at it. I think that's why I always gotta step back from your painting. That's why I step back from mine. In some weird way, when I'm too close to it, I miss a lot. Even though you'd think that being close to it means that you're seeing more of the detail. Yeah, strange. Strange phenomenon. Okay. Now I need to... Let's see here. The brick right here needs some attention. Because it was just kind of indicated. And also it has a very brown, well, I wouldn't say the bricks are brown, I would say that over the years of rainstorms that have battered this house, it's splashed up mud onto the bottom of the house. That's my theory. And to translate this to the viewer, I think I just add brown to this gray that I have over here, and that should fix all the world's problems. If the world's problems, of course, were figuring out how to make this brick look right. And who knows, maybe that is the world. There is someone out in the world that has that problem, just like me right now. It's almost there. I would say that this goes on first, and then we take some burnt sienna, gray it out, add a little black, add a little white, and put it on top of this color. I'm going to be careful though of not covering up these little lines of light gray in between these darker blobs I'm creating right now, because then it won't look like bricks anymore. That won't be good. Would not want to have to throw this whole painting away. I'm just kidding, that doesn't happen. I mean, it has happened, but as long as there's a point worth mentioning. Something I keep in mind while I'm painting is I try to keep the paint very flat of texture until I know that it's going to be the last stroke, and then I won't care. I know that goes against probably a style where people like to have a lot of texture off the painting. I personally don't. I like to have it kind of a drawing, like how colored pencil looks. But when it's flat, or the flatter it is, the more times that I see I can go over that spot to fix something and you never notice it. So that helps. Also, varnishing goes a very long way when it comes to matching the sheen across your painting, because often what happens when you go over and over in the same spot again, that texture will pick up light at a weird angle when the painting is hanging on the wall, and it will reveal a flashy sort of texture and appear that maybe your painting has a different kind of paint in that spot almost. And the way to combat that is varnishing, because it kind of evens out the shine on it. So it kind of sort of makes everything a little bit more shiny and a little bit more relative to itself. And with acrylics, I find that varnishing seems to be a little bit more important with a final product. Oil paintings tend to come out with a bit more shine to them naturally. And I think acrylic takes one step towards oil when it's varnished, in the sense that some light gets inside that varnish and bounces around and makes the colors pop. And I didn't varnish my earlier paintings because I just I wasn't really aware of it. And inherently, acrylics are a pretty durable paint. It's a pretty durable type of paint anyway, so. But through a couple layers of varnish, I realized, wow, really makes things pop. So if you can make it pop already before you varnish it, know that when you do put that varnish on, it's really gonna bring you that one extra hair, make it extra bright. Like this sunset's gonna come out more, the oranges and the skies are gonna come out a little bit more. And then the light from the window, when the painting's on the wall, is gonna make it look a little bit better, a little bit brighter. So now I'm gonna get my raw sienna. Now another way I could do this is add a little bit of black and a little bit of red, maybe a touch of yellow. But that's a lot of steps. So I think this is one of those moments where I take out a pre-mixed color. When I first started painting, I kind of got lost in the pre-mixed colors. I wasn't really sure when to use them or how to use them, because it's like, well, why would I buy brown if I can just buy red, yellow, and black, right? Well, I had to paint a lot to kind of find these situations where I'm like, I don't want to spend this extra minute and a half finding this brown when I can just use burnt sienna. So, I guess right now, as I paint, witnessing the use of it. I'm actually mixing it with a little bit of raw umber because actually, you know what? I probably should have used burnt umber, not raw sienna. That was my mistake there. I think burnt umber was my better choice. Let me see what that makes if I add it into there a little. Yeah, I think burnt umber actually. That's where I should have started. I think. Let me do a little color test. Well, you know what? It's pretty close. It's pretty close. I think I can roll with it. Where if I tossed another variant, a little red, more red of a variant. See, this is a bit more sand color, like towards the desert, beach sand, and that's because I use the sienna, which I think it has more yellow. But the burnt umber has more red. So, and I use raw sienna. That is, I didn't use burnt sienna. I probably should have used burnt sienna, which I think I have. Oh, here's my burnt sienna. I have a giant tube of it. I'm curious now. I just want to see burnt sienna on the palette. Oh yeah, it's almost burnt sienna is pretty much. It's pretty much brick color in a tube. Almost brick color in a tube. Maybe. I don't know if you can see that. That's burnt sienna. It's actually, the burnt sienna is like right on almost to the color I need. So I'm just gonna mix a little bit of it in with the color that was almost there, and I think it should give me what I'm looking for. Yep. Exactly what I'm looking for. That really worked out. Another color moment where I got the color right. That just feels good. I love when that happens. Finding the right color through like thinking about it, not like guessing. Something I enjoy about that feeling. And it's not predominantly this color. Only closer to the ground. So I'm gonna fill in this little crevice in the grass here. So I don't have to repaint the grass. I'm gonna try to get around that by making it look like I could probably even get this color on a thin brush and draw a little line, like little lines of negative space. I'm gonna fill in the top of this white here with this color. Instead of coming in with the wood color, which I do still have, it's still wet. Which reminds me, I should spray my whole palette again with this mister. I tend to use the mister more when I'm detailing. It helps keep the paint inky. And also, when I'm painting like a large area of the canvas, I usually use all the paint quick. And I really don't need to worry about keeping it wet. It goes up on the canvas really quickly. And yeah, so. I wonder if I can just do it with the brush I have now, just by clipping the corner ever so slightly into this grass here. I'm gonna have to block it with my hand, unfortunately. And yeah, it's working enough for me to not have to go grab another brush. And yeah, it's making that look a little bit more like grass there. Oh, you know what? You're not seeing exactly where I did it. Just pan over a little bit to the left here. And then up. Right there. Show you where I'm adding that. So like right here. Try to do it with my right hand for a sec so you can see. Tossing these little negative space lines on the top of the grass there. See that? Just kind of, because before I kind of just threw in ambiguous brush strokes. Man, I 10 minutes ago said I had to get water, and I still really have to get water, so I'm gonna oops, gone fuck that up. Excuse my language, that slipped out. I guess it depends on the day. Sometimes I swear like a construction worker on my stream. But maybe I shouldn't. But, you know. It's Planet Jokum after all, so I can do what I want here, right? I do tell YouTube I don't make my stuff for kids. So yes, this is not for kids YouTube. I switched back to my left hand because I figured I showed you what I was doing. So now you know. And my left hand's a bit more accurate with this very kind of stroke-based detail. Where it's almost like it's in the motion of the brush and how fast you move it that makes it too. There's a sort of muscle memory feeling to it that I have more in my left hand than in my right hand. In other words, my accuracy account goes up. The amount of proper strikes. I should just change my brush. I'm making it more difficult for myself here, but because it's not like this isn't going on forever. Like if I had to do this across the whole painting, I'd probably switch up my brushes, but in this case, it's fine. Yeah, you know, on second thought on the swear thing, I shouldn't, because, you know, what if some like young like school wants to like pop this video up? There's like kids watching and shit. As I say shit, you know what? Maybe for the video game streams, just like leave a warning. May swear because of exciting content. I don't know. I don't really care, to be honest, but other people do. I don't know how much I should care about that sometimes. I feel like it's all how much you want to care about something, but others might disagree. I feel like that's the thing with the world, is everyone sort of finds something to disagree about. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I feel like we all need to disagree to grow. But, you know, disagree logically, not just out of pure insanity. Pretty happy with that. I mean, I'm gonna go back, and there's actually some white flowers, little white grass field flowers, whatever you want to call them, that I'm gonna put there. I'm trying to get I gotta add some white to my palette. The spaces in between the bricks are my next concern here on this house. That was way too much white. I'm not gonna ever use that. It's gonna dry. I gotta find this sort of darker than the brick color, but not too dark sort of color. Because when I painted this part of the house, I didn't quite do it like the rest of the house. I didn't do the mortar how I should have. Because I had to stop painting. There was something that happened that day, and I couldn't get that part done in time. By the time I got back to it, you know, things just probably moved on to a different part of the painting. Okay, that's not dark enough. Get it a little darker. Probably would be smart for me to add a little bit of blue, because we're in an ambient light situation here. Seeing that the light source is shooting from behind, this is not being lit by the light, it's being lit by the sky reflecting the light. I'm afraid I might have gone too dark, and I'm not using the right brush. I'm gonna definitely have to switch my brush for this. And also the camera I'm seeing now. I'm working on this. There we go. Gotta get myself a detailed brush here. So should we do the trick? I hope this brush is in your hand too. I may not have gotten the paint out of it. Thought I brushed it. Let's see if I can save it. This happened at the beginning of the stream today. We tragically lost a brush today on the stream due to my negligence. Perfectly new brush. See, the thing with these tiny brushes is they only have literally like 27 hairs to them. So if not every little hair is happy, the brush goes astray. Bigger brushes with more bristles doesn't matter because, as much anyway. Because the other bristles are kind of like, hey, don't worry, come along with us, and they kind of like pick up the other sad bristles along and help them paint. So, I am going to grab this color that I made. Also, the thing with these detail brushes is keeping water on them. Basically, they can't even really handle thick paint, these brushes. I almost never put paint right out of the tube on them because it just doesn't work well. It's almost always watered down. It's like, if I'm about to use one of these brushes, I always grab some water. Just throw it on my palette. Just drip it on there. Alright, let's see what this color looks like. And this will be fun to see, because this is originally how I was going to do the bricks, was just paint the brick color and then draw in the mortar. And I ended up going the other way because I wanted to I just thought it would work better, and it ended up working really well. But because of that, I didn't get to see what it would look like if I tried it the other way. So now I'll get to know. It doesn't look that bad, honestly. I'm pretty happy with it. Pretty happy with it. I think I wouldn't have wanted to do the whole house like this, but a little section's fine. And I'm reminding myself again that, as I said a minute ago, that this color is too dark, is in the same way in acrylics that the light colors dry darker. These dark colors end up drying lighter by just enough of a fraction that I feel like, because this is slightly too dark, it will be just right when it dries, especially if I just take a little off with my finger. Probably have to get some. Actually, for the highlight color over here, I'm noticing that the brick is not solid, but I can fix that with a brick highlight later, which I'm not going to get to yet. I wanted to finish the detail on this house, which I'm very happy I did today. There we go. It actually worked out. It doesn't look as bad as I thought it would to actually draw in the bricks. I think what happens is that these bricks end up having a little bit more form to them, or perspective to the mortar. It's harder to keep the perspective of the little squares, but anyway. On that note, I am going to call today's stream a complete one. So thank you so much for hanging out, and I will see you tomorrow. I'm pretty sure I'll be streaming tomorrow, so I'll do a post letting you know when it's going to start ahead of time, and then another when it starts. thank you so much for hanging out today. Appreciate you all that commented and tuned in. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel because this is the only one that I'm going to be using now. I'm not on Twitch anymore. I'm not on Facebook anymore. It's now Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Mainly, that's it. All in just 3 spaces, and it's just how it's going to be from now on. I found it too complicated to do all 3 platforms. Again, if you like what you see, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when it starts, and I hope you all have a great rest of your Thursday. Thank you so much.